Hello and welcome to Michelle's Life on Repeat. It is time to remove that Zygopetalum that I bought the other day at the grocery store out of her bark because I know that is not the best situation for my Zygopetalums in my home, in my orchid room, to keep the humidity and the flow and everything just right. In my environment, it might be different than yours, but my Zygopetalums love moss all around their roots. They do not like their roots touched with my oily little hands. I don't even think they like their leaves touched with my oily little hands. So I try to avoid that at all costs. But there will be some touching and there'll be some abrasions and there'll be some fussing, and she'll tell me about it probably in a couple of weeks. But I'll do the best that I can. I have two other Zygopetalums on this shelf behind me, and that is where she will live in my orchid room. Let's take her apart. The Zygopetalum family is rather small. I don't know exactly how small, but it's definitely a lot smaller than your dendrobiums, your phalaenopsises, and your other orchids. There is just a few, and they all seem to have a purplish blue toned lip. They're known to have green and brown in the green, brown, and purple, and white are the primary colors that you will see Zygopetalums with. Let's take her apart. She's in this beautiful wicker basket and in a glass container, which is gorgeous, and you can see her roots, but there's no airflow whatsoever in the glass, and that will kill your roots long term. It will look beautiful for a while, but long term, for me in my house, the way I water my plants, she needs to have air vents and she needs to have moss. Whereas the other orchids, they love bark or they love moss or a mixture of things. I try to stick to moss. It's one of the few plants in my orchid room that is fully all moss in its root base. We'll take all this dirt, and she's got some good healthy roots in there. And she has inside of her what we always know they have, the plug. Back to the towel and the table, all my mess. And I'm just gonna let those flowers rest on the towel and do my best here. I'm not gonna even try to pick off the bark that's left on these bottom roots because that would probably irritate them and they will die. So I'm gonna leave a little bit of bark in my mix while I add moss around it. But I do have to get this foamy core out of the middle. It's just gonna suffocate. There are some roots that have grown around, and I'm going to use a bamboo skewer. That will help me get that all picked off. They like cooler, intermediate. I think when it gets extremely hot for long periods of time and you have the option, I would move a Zygopetalum a little bit to a cooler location. Like you have a heat wave going on. That's what I would do. Let me work on this and I will get back to you on what it looks like. There are so many little roots coming through the middle of that foam core. Gotta be gentle, gotta be gentle. Not gonna lie, it's been at least 30 minutes. I have one casualty, one beautiful, beautiful root, sacrificed. I'm at the point where I'm almost got all of the foam removed. I can see that big chunks are coming out and there won't be much left. When I can pull it with just the fingernail tips, I do that. Like I say, I don't like to put any oils on these roots. Still got some up in the top of the crown. A couple more swishes and I think it'll all loosen up and fall away. So I think I will stop fiddling in there, except for that piece I can get with my fingernail. What I will do now is I am going to just peel off some of these dried old sheets. It just becomes less of a magnet for water to get stagnant in and then rot the base of the bulb. So it's in for snails and puppy dog tails and critters and bugs. Normally I would spray hydrogen peroxide on my phalaenopsis and other plants. I will not do that with the Zygo because I respect the roots. We should make a banner. Respect the roots! And she looks pretty healthy. Look at, these are all new roots down here. So my other Zygopetalums are over here on the shelf, and I glanced over to see what kind of pot I used on them, which they liked, and it was this kind. There's air slats on the sides, there is air in the bottom, and there is a cone, a little bit of a raised cone, so lots of airflow. Sphagnum moss is what you want to use, not decorative moss. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of a layer at the bottom. Now I take my lovely roots, and I am going to take and just kind of pack them in like that, a little bit around them, and do the first drop in to the bowl, trying to tuck them down and in. We have some beautiful new roots around here because there are some nice roots in the back here. I am going to pack it in with this moss, wring it out. So you can see that I have roots still peeking. There's air gaps in there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little blunt end, a stick of some sort, of chopstick will work, and I am going to go around and I am just going to lightly push that moss down till it makes sure that all those roots have contact with some wet moss. I don't want them drying out. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do, pushing those around, and I'll show you when I am all done. We are almost done. I like to take those like cotton balls, face cloth, and wipe the leaves off with that from any water spots. I do pamper these babies. I try not to ever water from the top or get water on the leaves from a plant dripping down above it. And when I go to water her, I will check the moss. If it feels like a damp sponge, then I am good to go. And when I go to water her, I sit her in the watering bucket up to about right here, and I just let the water rise. Because she is all prettified, I normally leave her on the shelf like this with all the airflow, but because she has her blooms opened and I'm going to put her downstairs to be displayed, I will put her in a crock that gives her airflow around the roots. And our lovely Zygo has bloomed all of her 5 buds out. 1, 2, they are hanging down. 3, 4 over here, and 5 on the top. She's doing great. Thank you for stopping by and watching. Have a great day. Until we talk again, bye-bye.